Imagine watching some of the NBA's biggest stars hit the deck with Oscar-worthy performances, flopping their way to victory. These are the antics that drive the entire league crazy, with refs blowing whistles and fans shaking their heads in disbelief. From sneaky foul-hunting tactics to flat-out acting, these players have turned flopping into an art form, and trust me, it gets wilder. So stick around till the end, because the final flop will have you questioning if you're watching a game or a TV show. Whether you admire strategy or not, certain NBA players have mastered the art of flopping. And topping that list is Joel Embiid, one of the most dominant players in the league right now. He's the former MVP, a monster on both ends of the court, and yet this guy flops like crazy. We're talking about a 7-foot, 280-pound center throwing himself around on the court like he's auditioning for a role in a soap opera. It's hard to watch sometimes, and let's be honest, it's frustrating for everyone: fans, players, coaches, you name it. Some of Embiid's flops are straight up ridiculous. Imagine seeing this towering figure who could bulldoze through defenses with ease suddenly collapsing to the ground after the slightest contact. And the worst part? It works. Embiid has been averaging over 11 free throws per game for the past 2 seasons. That's insane for a guy who often prefers hanging out at mid-range. It's like he's found a cheat code to rack up points. And while it's great for the scoreboard, it drives people nuts. The 2024 season had the most dramatic showdown of them all. It's the first quarter of a playoff game, Sixers versus the Miami Heat, and Embiid's at the free throw line. He's just missed a shot, and instead of just shaking it off, the reigning MVP does something wild. He suddenly drops to his knees right there on the court. No contact, no shove, just boom, down on his knees like his legs gave out or something. And you know, social media exploded with reactions. Comments ranged from "bro doesn't want to play no more" to "his knees are so cooked." Fans were roasting him left and right, saying he does this all the time, he thinks he's gonna miss. It's one of those moments where you're just sitting there watching this 7-foot giant flop after a free throw miss, and you can't help but wonder, what is going on? Is it a mentality thing? Some bizarre superstition? Whatever it was, it left the crowd, the commentators, and pretty much everyone online absolutely bewildered. But hey, he's an MVP. If this strategy keeps getting him to the line and putting points on the board, you can bet he's not going to stop anytime soon, even if the entire NBA hates him for it. And Embiid isn't the only one making headlines for flopping. If we're talking about a masterclass in the art of the flop, Marcus Smart has the crown locked down tight. Smart has not only snagged the Defensive Player of the Year award, but his defensive shenanigans also helped push the Boston Celtics to the NBA Finals. You've got to respect the guy's hustle. But there's no denying it, this man flops a lot. Smart knows exactly how to frustrate the opposition, drawing fouls and earning his team extra possessions with some of the most theatrical flops you've ever seen. It's so bad, it's good. But let's not pretend Smart doesn't toe a fine line between intense defensive pest and full-on flopping comedian. 2 of his most memorable and, frankly, hilarious flops happened during the playoffs. In 2016, Kyle Korver barely brushed past Smart, and Smart responded like he'd been hit by a freight train, arms and legs flailing everywhere. And guess what? The refs didn't buy it. But here's the real gem. During the 2020 playoff bubble, Smart was trailing a 1-0 fast break. Raptors forward Pascal Siakam was on the move, and somehow Smart managed to draw an offensive foul. The refs initially blew the whistle, calling it against Siakam, but a challenge revealed the obvious truth. Smart had pulled off a next-level flop, and the call was overturned. Honestly, it's wild how Smart's antics have become just as iconic as his defense. Up next, let's talk about one of the most polarizing players the NBA has ever seen, James Harden. The beard is an absolute offensive genius, no doubt. He's a 10-time All-Star, led the league in assists multiple times, and is literally an entire offensive system rolled into one. Harden isn't just flailing around, he's perfected the art of flopping on the offensive end too. When he's driving to the basket, even the softest contact sends his arms flying like he's been hit by a truck. Or he'll hook a defender with his arm, act like he's being dragged down, and boom, the ref's blowing the whistle. And don't get me started on his jump shots. He purposely lands in the defender's space, almost begging for a foul call. It's genius, but also infuriating. Harden's foul-drawing skills got so out of hand that the NBA had to change the rules to stop players from leaning into defenders and making those ridiculous non-basketball moves. So what did Harden do? Oh, he just doubled down on his flopping, this time on defense too. And let's be real, he's got that extra padding on his backside now, making those flops look even softer. At the end of the day, Harden's flopping has become as much a part of his legacy as his scoring titles. Sure, we might hate watching it, but man, he loves hearing that whistle. If we're talking about OG troublemakers in the sport, then we've got to talk about the ultimate master of deception, Chris Paul. CP3 is a legit defensive powerhouse, no doubt about it. This guy racked up 9 all-defensive team honors in a 10-year span, so he's no slouch when it comes to shutting opponents down. But here's the thing. Paul's not just a defensive genius, he's also one of the NBA's greatest actors. When it comes to flopping, Chris Paul's acting skills are Oscar-worthy. You'll see him pull out all the classic tricks, running headfirst into a screen, taking a phantom elbow that never landed, or pretending that DeMarcus Cousins just bulldozed him when Cousins barely moved. And don't even get me started on the offensive side. The slightest bump when he's dribbling, and suddenly CP3's hitting the floor like he's been knocked out. The guy's future Hall of Fame status is undisputed, but his spot in the flopping Hall of Fame? Oh, it's locked in too. But here's the real kicker. You'll love Chris Paul if he's on your team, but if he's not, oh, you're probably groaning every time you see him hit the deck. And with the number of teams he's been on, let's just say most NBA fans have had a chance to hate on him at some point. Now, let's not act like Paul hasn't paid the price for all his flopping. I mean, remember when Steph Curry absolutely shattered him with that crossover? That was the ultimate ankle breaker, and CP3 became a meme instantly. So yeah, maybe we can go a little easy on him, but just a little, because flopping or not, Chris Paul will forever be one of the best at getting in your head and on the floor. But if you thought Paul's flops were legendary, just wait until you hear about Trae Young. While CP3's been flopping his way to free throws for years, Young has taken the art to a whole new level, so much so that the NBA literally named him in their crackdown on flopping. While Young's ability to get to the free throw line is impressive, what makes everyone cringe is how he does it. Instead of just focusing on his insane shooting range, it often seems like he's more into creating contact than clean shots. His signature move? The stop and jump backward trick, where he jumps backward into defenders to force a foul call. And if you've watched him shoot from behind the arc, you've seen it. He's masterful at baiting defenders into fouling him for those sweet, sweet 3 free throws. But let's be real, it's the kind of move that'll make you shout at your screen. And then there's the infamous moment that really made fans groan. February 2022, Hawks versus Mavericks, Trae's going up against Luka Doncic. And after getting an offensive rebound, Luka barely brushes him. What does Trae do? He goes full on Hollywood. He flails backward, falling from the free throw line and nearly all the way to half court. It was the flop of the year, and trust me, Twitter had a field day. Even Steve Nash himself couldn't hold back, saying, "That's not basketball." Trae Young's got a game, no doubt about it, but the flopping? Yeah, that's something the entire NBA and the fans have grown to despise. Finally, we have Kyle Lowry, the master of bending the rules. Even though he's not as quick or athletic as he once was, the Miami Heat guard is still crafty, and sometimes a bit too much so. Ask around, and many fans will tell you he's the biggest flopper in the entire NBA. Lowry has this uncanny ability to make a simple charge look like a Hollywood-level stunt, and he's perfectly fine with falling more dramatically than necessary if it gets him the call. In fact, Lowry's flopping finesse earned him a comparison to none other than Daniel Day-Lewis. Yep, the Oscar-winning actor. Commentator Bill Simmons dubbed him the Daniel Day-Lewis of flopping because of his sheer creativity when drawing fouls. Whether it's pretending to be concussed or throwing himself onto the floor after a brush of contact, Lowry has truly perfected the art of flopping. It's so bad that the NBA has decided to crack down on guys like him with a new anti-flopping rule. And honestly, it's hard to ignore the embarrassment Lowry's flopping brings. Fans have been vocal about it, calling the NBA a league full of theatrics and thespians. Whether you admire his cleverness or find it frustrating, one thing's for sure: Lowry's flopping isn't exactly winning him any fans. So which of these flops do you think were Oscar-worthy, and which ones just make you want to throw your remote at your screen? Let me know in the comments, and if you thought these were bad, wait till you see the next video, because trust me, it's about to get even crazier. Click on the video on screen now, and don't forget to follow for a taco.